Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Friday, February 26th installment of the Silicon Insider, the only uncensored look at life and business in the Silicon Valley. My name is Mike Malone, and I've been covering this town longer than anybody, and I'm here with our special contributor, Scott Budman, business and tech reporter for NBC Bay Area. Our producer is Jordan Henderson. Our East Coast correspondent is Bob Grove, and our host for this podcast, as always, is the Silicon Valley Business Journal. Okay, Scott, new week, sun's out. It's February and it's like June. So, I mean, it's hard not to be optimistic right now. You know, the cases and deaths from COVID are falling. The market is blooming today, including Airbnb has had a great jump, which suggests that people are already thinking, or investors are thinking, we're coming out of this. Everyone's going on vacation this year. Everyone's getting out of the house.
Yeah, it's interesting you picked that company. That's probably the best example of any company in the world right now of the optimism to come. Yes, it's beautiful in Silicon Valley. We're seeing all sorts of IPOs on the horizon. And Airbnb, a company that just lost, that just lost billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Quarter, I mean, losing a catastrophic amount of money. Their stock is moving higher because people are optimistic about the future. It's sort of like what you see with cruise lines and even airline stocks right now. There is an optimism that we'll be able to get back to this, get back to traveling and seeing people. And on that alone, Airbnb is doing very well post-IPO, and they've really kept a high level this whole time.
Well, it's affecting me. I know four shows from now, you're probably going to see the Pacific Ocean behind me from Oregon, all those rocks in the water in Bandon, Oregon, because I'm getting out of here. I can't take much more of this. Okay, so let's look at the week. Tech stocks hitting new records. Then take a tumble. Now they're coming back again. Everybody took some profit sharing, but the market looks pretty damn, even though the whole market's down today, tech stocks are doing good.
Yeah, tech stocks are still leading the way, which is interesting because it's like the optimism that we just talked about. People look at Silicon Valley and say, when we get back to normal, once again, these are going to be the companies that lead us in terms of new hiring, in terms of, I guess, continuing to build big structures and edifices, even though people will still be working it from home for a while. But these are going to be the profit leaders and the innovation leaders. And once again, people are looking to the Valley. On the other hand, the way that people are moving into some of these stocks suggests that we are bored and chomping at the bit for some action and some excitement, because people are jumping in once again to the GameStops of the world.
GameStop's back up again.
Yeah, which is, there's no fundamental behind that. It's just herd mentality. And so when you're starting to see some of the sell-offs, they're really hitting tech hard. And we saw that this week with some of these big tech companies selling off, not necessarily on any fundamentals, but just finally people saying, I've got to take some of this off the table because the stock has just gotten so high.
I think we're going to look back and say, this is a unique period where the stock market led us through the boom. I mean, not the stock market, the tech industry led us through the boom, led us through the downtime, through the COVID crisis, and now may lead us out of it all. I mean, this has been an extended run for certain tech companies out there. I mean, it's no wonder that the biggest companies in the world now, they've had perhaps the longest sustained expansion we've ever seen in tech. And that's saying something.
Yeah, and it's not just one or two areas where you see a chip boom or a social networking boom. We're starting to see it all sort of come together where, because software is doing so well, because we're using it so much at home, that helps the chip guys. And then the social networking companies are everywhere because that's how we get our news,
right.
And that helps the smartphone companies. So it's all sort of coming together in a big area. And one thing that I'm seeing a big push on are and we've talked about this a bit, the acquisition companies, the blank check SPAC IPOs, largely in areas of environment with electric cars and even charging companies. And this seems to be a big push towards, let's get these companies out there without having to do a big road show. And that's dangerous. We've seen some of these companies go public with nary a product and investors might get burned. But that's what happens, is it not? And you've seen this before. When things go really well, you start to see the fringe of things going too well, better than they should.
Yeah, bubbles take on their own momentum with not a lot of rationality involved. I will note that those GameStop short sellers lost $1.9 billion in just 2 days this week, at $664 million just on Wednesday. So the kids are still having their effect. You know, it's interesting. It kind of came out what really happened at Robinhood when they did that shutdown and wouldn't allow, people to sell and everything else. It turns out there's this thing called, since you and I don't buy and sell stock because we can't. There's a thing called a 2-day stock settlement period. Do you know what that is? When you press the button to buy stock, it goes into your portfolio, but you don't own it yet. There's a 2-day lag in there. And that's what caught Robinhood with their pants down. Apparently, Tanya received a phone call at 3 a.m. From their clearinghouse saying, you got to put up another $3 billion to cover all of the trades because this stuff accumulated in this settlement process. So there's a big move right now. He luckily talked him down to $1.5 million or something, and that saved the company. But there's a real movement now to shorten that period. There's really no reason. It's kind of anachronistic from another era that the settlement period, they're saying, just take it down to real time and let this transaction occur rather than piling it up on the in basket until it overwhelms, a brokerage.
Right. I mean, we're trading back in the day of as if we were still back in the day of the telegraph, as opposed to the fiber optic cable, where these things happen in fractions of a second. And so it makes sense to modernize the whole system since we've modernized the infrastructure to a large extent.
Okay, IPOs this week. We've had a few. It's amazing. We're having a lot. We've had a hell of a lot of IPOs over the last few months, and it's been kind of anecdotal, but this is a wave almost like not as insane as 2000 or 1999, but this has been a real IPO boom period historically.
Yeah, I think we're getting there in terms of getting back to the boom. We had one about a week ago with Bumble. This is a dating service. Dating services are still apparently going public. And then even a couple that just in the last couple of days have declared, they've gone out saying we're going to file.
Lucid.
Which one?
Lucid,
yeah. Okay, an electric car company. A lot of excitement. I was actually on their garage floor just a couple of weeks ago. They've got cars everywhere. They're putting all the electric motors in. A very exciting feeling, but they don't have any cars on the road yet. No product that you can buy, and they're on the verge of going public because of a SPAC. Coinbase is talking about going public.
By the way, so literally people should wait till the rubber actually hits the road.
Very good.
Before buying Lucid stock.
Yeah, and yet they won't. The excitement surrounding anything EV these days, look at NEO stock, look at obviously Tesla stock. These companies are just going gangbusters. And so now there's another company, and this is another Bay Area company, tried and true, but not a single car on the road. So yeah, of course I would say wait. I would never say jump into an IPO, no matter how established, just because of the craziness of the trading, but they don't have a product that you can actually buy and kick the tires yet. Coinbase, a little different. Coinbase has been out there for a while.
Right.
Know about what it does. It has probably more than almost anything given legitimacy to the whole crypto movement, because you can actually buy and sell on Coinbase sort of as an exchange, as a way to buy and sell this stuff. Whereas before it was even more mysterious. So I expect there to be a ton of interest around Coinbase as well, because people want what's hot. And what's hotter right now than Coinbase?
Okay. In the everything old is new category, the prediction, according to leaker John Prosser, he's famous, for doing this, the 2021 iMac will come in a multitude of colors. I know that's a silly news story, but you remember Apple was the plain taupe machines for years and years, and then Steve Jobs revolutionized it with that 2000 iMac in all those colors, and it was like, oh my god. And then Apple went back to being boring again, shiny this time, and now it's going to be in colors. I mean, is this going to be the way it works? That every 10 years, you bring back color to excite everybody?
Yeah, I mean, look at the rebranding that's happening from everything, Levi's with its logo, Mr. Potato Head dropping the Mr. I mean, these are all things that are getting a lot of PR, but there's no real need for it. But yeah, if people want colors, what's interesting to me is I heard that, the Rolling Stones song, She Comes in Colors, that
Sure.
was brought back for the Mac release so long ago, is now being used on television for by Adobe. Adobe bought it. So even the ad that stirred nostalgic feelings like, whoa, it's been a while since I've heard this in a commercial, is now rebought and being branded for a Silicon Valley tech company, this time software, not hardware.
So more money in the pockets of Mick and Keith for
Yes.
literally their worst early album, their Royal Satanic Majesty's Request. Okay,
That's
fine. More money for everybody. PayPal. PayPal's really having a great year. I mean, they're setting record numbers and everything else, but they're also and they're getting involved in cryptocurrency. But they've announced they're not going to get into cryptocurrency. They're not going to invest in it. They'll accept it, and that's a very interesting choice. I mean, it seems like the world is kind of going two ways: one towards crypto, and one of them not towards crypto. Kind of suspicious about it and keeping it at arm's length. Is this anything important?
Well, I think I think you're right in that it's going in two directions. PayPal is taking a much different tact on crypto than its big rival Square. Square, run by Jack Dorsey, a big fan of Bitcoin for a long time. And
Right.
They're saying not only do we accept it, but we're going to invest in it. I think PayPal is saying, well, sure, we'll accept it because that's just sort of going with the flow. But what a headache it must be to be a Bitcoin investor on any level. I mean, just during the last week, we saw it go to 58, it fell to 45, it went back into the 50s. You'd have to have someone, this would be investor relations, talking people out of windows at this point if you were invested in Bitcoin. So I think what PayPal is doing is saying, hey, we're really running on all cylinders because people are paying this way and exchanging this way. Why have the headache of investing in Bitcoin? Let Jack Dorsey do that. Let Elon Musk do that. Let Michael Saylor of MicroStrategy do that. We want to focus on our core business, which, by the way, is doing very well.
Very well. I think there's an added cost to participating in the Bitcoin revolution, which is just the wear and tear on your psyche every day. Just tracking this thing. And at any moment it could disintegrate around you, or it could make you rich. I mean, that's as exciting as it must be. It's got to be exhausting week after week. Get up every morning, you have no idea what your financial state is, until you check Bitcoin. It's got to be tough.
It is. It's very, very speculative, and it's gotten more so, and even more than just the coins. I mean, someone told me they spent thousands of dollars on an NBA highlight, so that they can have this highlight and maybe sell it. And I thought, you mean the one I just saw last night on ESPN and in 5 seconds on YouTube? Yeah, that one. That's where we are in this market. And that can't last because that's crazy. That's very, very bubbly-like and very speculative.
I just think people have gone a little mad the last 10 months, and there's going to be a reality check as we come out of this. And I also suspect inflation's coming back. It seems to be knocking at the door out there. I mean, the government can't spend that much money without changing the value of the dollar. So I think we're in for a wild ride. I mean, people are going to be out. They're going to be exuberant. They're going to be excited. We got to figure out what kind of carnage has taken place over the last 10 months in retail and services. People are going to be on the road. We're spending massive amounts of money, so the national debt's going through the roof. And do we make that up? How fast does that happen? I mean, we're entering into unknown territory right now. And, I think we're in for a very wild ride. We're going to have a lot to talk about the rest of this year.
I agree. The economy is going to be in for some big back and forth shakeups because we've got jobless rates. Will the jobs come back when we do open up? People are going to be spending money because there is that pent up demand. But on the other hand, Are people even going to be able to continue to rent when those things are taken away? There's so much to watch. You're absolutely right. And I think that's part of the reason when people are saying, well, what's a safe haven right now? All of a sudden technology, which wasn't really the safe place, is looked at as they're still going, they're still making their numbers, they're still hiring. And apparently they don't even have to be in a building to do it. So that is a really, really reassuring thing to a lot of investors right now.
And you know what else, as a Valleyite, reassuring is the fact that venture capital is still really busy right now. And a recent study found that Silicon Valley is still going to be the center of the world's technology venture industry. Yeah, venture funds are opening up everywhere around the country and around the world, but the home is still here. And where the bank is, that's where the action is going to be, in the sense of new startups and all the excitement. The other thing that surprised me, I've been helping my sister, she's looking for a house, and I've been looking all around San Jose. I haven't really been in San Jose much the last 10 months, and I'm just astonished how the skyline is changing down there. You get in there, you're there all the time, but the amount of construction going on, especially apartments and condos on the periphery of downtown, plus new towers, is astounding. I mean, San Jose, a lot of people are going to emerge from their caves and go, this place looks different than it did when I went into the bunker. I think rent's going to start, it's been down and falling, but I think it's going to stay down for a while just because we're going to have an oversupply of habitat around here for a while, which is kind of exciting.
Right. The building started, and largely because, like you say, there was space. Google is moving downtown. There's a need for housing, all sorts of reasons to build new housing in the South Bay. But you're right, all that started pre-pandemic. And so now what happens? Are people going to say, hey, let's go into this Google village, or maybe I'll stay home? Are they going to say, hey, let's go out and get a new apartment? Yeah, that'll be interesting, because one of the surprises is Bay Area rents having fallen so much because you can now be anywhere. You don't have to be here.
But trust me, not housing prices.
No, but that's a scarcity thing.
I've seen the most terrible looking places, and they're going for 20% over listing price. I mean, demand for homes is still incredible around here.
Yeah.
Okay, a moment of silence for a Bay Area, a Silicon Valley institution, Fry's. Fry's announced that it's going out of business. It's done. At least Fry's Electronics. Does Fry's supermarkets still survive all this?
I don't even know where they are. The whole chain is shutting down. So yeah. Going to take it all with it, I think.
I mean, you're a Bay Area kid.
Sure.
You remember Fry's was a grocery store for years and years. And then the family, the second generation or third generation, said, let's get into electronics. And it turned out to be one of the most extraordinary retail, inventions of all time, and became literally the symbol of Silicon Valley was Fry's. I mean, when I had visitors come to town, I'd take them to Fry's. When I had reporters coming from, Japanese television or from Eastern Europe, and they say, can you give us a quick tour of the Valley? I take them to Fry's because it was so unique and so incredible that it was dazzling at its peak. So what happened?
Yeah, it wasn't enough to just sell electronics. It was, you had to enter a Mayan temple to do it. And it's fascinating. But look,
you not only entered a Mayan temple, but over here was stereos, and over here was refrigerators, right. And over there was electronic components. You could buy microprocessors. It was everything. I used to go in there as a reporter just to keep track of the zeitgeist of the electronics revolution. What were people buying? What was hot? I mean, there was a time I literally watched the Apple aisle versus the Windows aisle, because these Windows had all the games and all the excitement, and the Apple aisle got really, really narrow and boring for a while. And I thought, they're going to lose market share. And they did. You could literally put your you put your finger on the temple this temple of Silicon Valley and figure out what's the temperature today, what's hot, and the parking lot would have 1,000 cars. It was great.
Right, but what happened? Not only did Apple open its own retail stores, but even Microsoft opened its own retail stores, not to mention Best Buy. And really the crushing blow was the rise of the internet. Fry's was too slow to jump on that. And so people were getting their one little microprocessor or connector that they needed really quickly online, and they didn't have a need to go to Fry's. And so, yeah, that experience sort of went away. You talk to really young people and they just haven't shopped there. They haven't needed to. But if you talk to people who are like 40 and up, they'll say, oh, I met my co-founder at Fry's. We bought everything we needed and we started a company thanks to Fry's. And that's just amazing, part of Valley history.
And I remember it became a meeting place. I mean, guys would work, code writers would work till 7 or 8 at night. Then they go to Fry's and they'd hang out there. I mean, it literally became like a Arab bazaar, a marketplace, and where people actually interacted with each other. And I think there was a lot of problems. I mean, the service was terrible. You couldn't find anybody to help you half the time. And, you did feel like a sheep, in that line for checkout, where they had 60 cash registers in a row and you stood there next to the junk food aisle waiting to, to check out. Then they went through all your stuff like you were a criminal. But it says something, I think, important. I'm not quite sure how to elucidate that importance, but that the end of Fry's and the rise of what we have now, we're more atomized out there. We're, you needed a Fry's because you wanted to know what was going on. You wanted to have everything available. Now you go to Amazon and it's all there and everything's available. What's not on Amazon is that random juxtaposition of things where you go, oh, a hunting knife with a compass and a modem. Hey, that's cool. And then I'll get a latte. You can't do that. You really can't do that on Amazon. So we lose that. Amazon gives us a lot of things. I mean, it's the infinite Fry's. But some of the sociological things that a place like Fry's provided are gone. Absolutely. So, and it's kind of hard to explain what Fry's meant and, back in the day, but it's gone. I mean, I used to go to the one in Sunnyvale and I slowly watched all the inventory disappear until the aisles were empty and the computerized piano wasn't playing, and there was only 6 guys in cash registers. And it just, you could see its trajectory was made 5 years ago. You knew it was dying. And so it's gone. So a quick salute to Fry's.
Right. To Fry's.
Bye. And then finally, the bold italic. Do you know what the bold italic is? It's a publication around here online. Yeah. They noted that 65 years ago this month, February 1956, Dr. Arnold Beckman, and Dr. William Shockley, the notorious Dr. William Shockley, announced at a luncheon at St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco the founding of Shockley's Semiconductor Laboratory in Palo Alto. They say Palo Alto, but the building was in Mountain View, wasn't it? Anyway, 65 years ago. Now, I wouldn't say, they said that's the official, the lunch where they announced, they created Silicon Valley. Well, I mean, HP had been there already for 20 years. And frankly, the real moment where Silicon Valley became real, I think, also at Shockley, was a little bit later when the Trader estate all got together with Bill Shockley for lunch at Dinah's Shack to celebrate his Nobel Prize for the invention of the transistor. That, I think, is the moment the modern Silicon Valley begins. But I'll take the announcement at St. Francis as an anniversary. So it's modern Silicon Valley is now a senior citizen.
And
they'll be waiting.
It qualifies for its vaccine shot.
Security.
It can get its vaccine shot too.
So anything else?
No, I think that's good. I think we.
So what
What'd you say?
What's next week?
I think we've got more earnings coming. I think we're going to see more of these IPOs. I mean, watch the SPAC market. This is getting crazy because I think this is going to be the year that we see SPACs more than regular traditional IPOs for the first time. And it might not even be that close. We're just seeing that many of them.
Well, that's revolutionary.
Well, it is a different.
That changes everything.
Yeah, and it may. We'll see. But enough of these may fail because they're going public a little too early. And if that happens, people will get a little nervous. And where the VCs go, the rest of the valley goes.
We haven't seen one crash yet, have we?
No, but look, I mean, I think
they haven't had time to spend all their money yet. So
right, but I think the Virgin SPAC has been up and down. What was that electric truck one that didn't really have anything going for it? Nikola, that they lost a lot of money on that one. So there's still time, but there's also still time to stumble.
Well, for now, we can just go outside and enjoy the beautiful February California day. This is ultimately why we're here. So that's it for now, folks. You can find us on the Silicon Valley Business Journal homepage, as well as on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye.